Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching episode 5 of Secret Invasion, and while last episode felt like the culmination of all of this build-up, this big action set piece at the end, this one definitely feels like we're once again doing the we slow down again, we're gathering all our pieces, that way we can get to the finale. My only problem really is that I'm not sure what the finale is headed towards, to be honest. It feels like the story is not going to be nearly as big in scale as it definitely could have been, especially compared to the comics version of this. And I'll say that right away, is that I think a lot of people who are disappointed in this series because you're comparing it to the comics version of the same name. I'm not going to say it's wrong to do that, because of course you would do that. They gave it the same name. But it definitely, they're going for something different here. This is much more of a slow burn thriller, and that's not going to be for everyone. And clearly the viewing numbers have displayed that it's not going to be for everyone. But I will say, I still enjoyed this episode for what it is. We did get a little bit of an action set piece, but honestly, it kind of felt like it was there just to break up some of the dialogue pieces, because, yeah, a lot of this show is just people in rooms talking to each other, and if you're not down with that, then I totally get that, but for me, the show is still working. I can kind of see where they might be heading towards in the finale, but it's definitely just not going to be this big explosive action thing, or at least I don't think it will be. But here we go. Let's just round this all up. So first, the president is taken to a hospital where Fury is telling him don't trust Rhodes, right? And we saw him drive off without Tellus's body last episode, and yet somehow in this episode they have it. Maybe I missed a line, but somehow they have Tellus's body, and Gaia wants to do this ceremony where they burn his body, and it's like this scroll ceremony thing that they do. So they managed to accomplish that. Rhodes is told they go in a different direction, which is kind of interesting, because the whole time I was like, well, what is the Skrulls' actual genuine plan, right? Because we know they're trying to create these schisms between countries in hopes that there will ignite a world war and the world will destroy itself, but there doesn't seem to be one specific plan. It's kind of just cause general chaos, and also super Skrulls. We're throwing that in the we're throwing that in the equation just in case an Avenger shows up. So yeah, super Skrulls, right? So my first thing is that right now it appears that only Gravik and Gaia are super Skrulls. It does not seem that Gravik has been giving the rest of his soldiers any of the super Skrull serum, which is interesting, right? Because you would think that if the contingency here is that this is in case the Avengers show up, you would think that he'd be like, yeah, I need at least like 10 of us to be super Skrulls for us to really stand a chance against the Avengers, or whoever the Avengers are at this point in time, right? But that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like it's only Gravik, and we know this because one of his Skrull little foot soldiers kind of talks up to him, and he kills him in front of everyone. And then later Gravik gets attacked by his own men, so he's losing the confidence of his people. Of course, all of those people who attacked him die, but this also kind of points out, okay, so Gravik is the only super Skrull then, aside from Gaia. That's interesting. It's an interesting choice, because I thought the whole point of this was to have have an army or something, but I guess not. And we also are finally revealed as to what specifically Gravik wants, and why he didn't kill Fury last episode is because he has something called the Harvest, which apparently immediately after Endgame, the battle against Thanos, they had a bunch of Skrulls go in there, get all the blood and the other bits of DNA that they could find, and of all the Avengers, and they just scooped them all up. And then they they made it look like it's one vial, which wouldn't make any sense if it's a bunch of separate DNA samples. So it must be several different samples inside that vial, somehow separated. I don't know. But yeah, Nick Fury had hidden that away, and that's what Gravik's been after this whole time. That way he will be able to get all of the Avengers' powers. I don't know if you could put all of that in one person, or just spread that out evenly somehow. I don't know how that would work exactly, but that seems to be what the ultimate real plan is. And also, he's kind of told the Rhodey Skrull, I don't remember if that Skrull has a name exactly, but he's told fake Rhodey that now what you're going to do is you're going to tell the president that the Skrulls are working for the Russians and that he needs to attack the Skrull base, and this will ignite the war between the Russians and the United States, because of course the Russians are going to deny that they're working with the Skrulls because they aren't really. And the Skrulls, even though they're attacking their own base, you know, it is kind of ultimately what they want is for the humans to start fighting with each other. So, you know, that plan would work. You know, of course, Fury told the president not to believe Rhodey, so I don't know what the president will ultimately end up trying to decide to do. Now, of course, we know that this president's life does not seem to be, you know, have much of a future, because Harrison Ford is playing President Ross in the next Captain America. So either there is an election in between this show and that movie, or more likely, this president ends up getting killed by some Skrulls, and then maybe Rhodey Skrull tries to impersonate him, and then he gets found out or something, right? Either way, we end up with a President Ross. In fact, I wouldn't be too shocked if we get a tiny cameo of a, you know, maybe even just like a little mention on the news or something of like, oh, candidate Ross is running for president, you know, like something like that might show up on a news headline. I could see that happening, like a little Easter egg, you know. In any case, that seems to be the plan. Really, all it is just the new plan is to get them to attack the Skrulls themselves because they think they're working for the Russians, because they have Rhodey there lying. Now, again, it's still not clear how long this Rhodey has been Rhodey. I don't think it's been that long of a time. And also we get a small cameo by that guy from Black Widow. I don't remember his name. He was the guy that gave Black Widow all of her supplies. He gave her a plane, gave her this and that. You know, he showed up a couple times in that movie. I don't remember his name. I'm assuming he's somebody from the comics, but he hasn't shown up since then. And so I guess here he is now. Of course, Black Widow's been dead for several years at this point, but here he is. I guess Nick Fury also knew that guy. I don't remember whatever his name is. So we do get a little bit of a cameo there. Let's see what else. Oh, Gaia goes to Fury's wife, and they have a little bit of a shootout because they're gonna go after Fury's wife because she did not kill Nick Fury, right? And she decides to stay in her house, and her excuse is that she wants to, you know, she doesn't want to just get gunned down in some random alley, and she wants to stay at her home and fight, which I guess is believable. But also it kind of feels like they did that because it saves money if they just stay on a set that they already have built, and they can just use the same set again, and it's cheaper that way. And also that kind of brings me to some of my issues with the Skrulls. You know, we have Gravik at the Skrull base talking to all of his like you know, minions, all of his like lieutenants and such, right? And everyone is still in their human form. Now, I know earlier in the show they said something about, oh, we're all going to stay in our human form until we can live free in our natural form, or they said something along those lines, and I know that that's supposed to be the reason why they're always in their human form, but again, this sounds like a cost-cutting measure, right? It doesn't sound like a real plot thing. You know, they just had to come up with an excuse for them to not have to be in green makeup and prosthetics, which cost a lot of money to apply, and so you know what I mean? It's little things like that I'm starting to be like, man, if this show had more money, I bet they'd all be Skrulls right now. You know, I bet Gaia and Fury's wife would be fighting these people somewhere else instead of just the house if they had more money. But I don't know. I'm kind of nitpicking a little bit, I guess. I don't know. In any case, yeah, just if Nick Fury kind of gets his groove back, he has the harvest, he has a bunch of supplies, he gets an eye patch, he gets his jacket, he gets, you know what I mean? So he kind of like supplies back up at one of his apparently many different grave sites that he has around the world, which you would think that someone would have pointed that out, like, hey, there's a lot of Nicholas Fury's graves like everywhere, which that's not a common name, but I guess maybe it's not uncommon enough to be noticeable. I don't know, but in any case, yeah, it seems to be just Nick Fury and that other lady, the government lady. I don't remember her name either, but she did a lot of cool stuff in this episode. She tracked down the Skrull doctors, or maybe just the husband was a Skrull. I don't know. The doctors who were working on the entire Super Skrull experiment. She tracked them down and she killed the husband, and now I guess the lady doctor is going to start talking about like how they did this and what they were doing and all this. So yeah, I mean, she's a cool character. I don't remember her name. She's the leader of her own British government organization. She's Fury's friend. I don't remember what her name is. Anyways, it seems to be just them two, and Nick Fury's got a brand new eye patch and a whole bunch of gear, and he's got the Harvest with him. And whatever his plan actually is gonna be, you know, because of course Gravik called him and gave him the ultimatum, like, give me the Harvest or I'll start World War III. I can do it right now. So we'll see how this all plays out. You know, I guess my only thing is, in my mind, I was envisioning a situation where Gravik had given, you know, at least 10 or 15 of his people the Super Skrull serum, and he was gonna have to deal with a bunch of these, right? And maybe he was gonna have to get the real Rhodey and free the real Rhodey, because remember, if there's a Skrull Rhodey, that means the real one is trapped somewhere, right? So I was thinking, oh, maybe the real one can wake up, and maybe he's the only one who can use the War Machine armor. So, you know, you have at least one Avenger in the real Rhodey who's now woken up, and like, this is the scenario that I was thinking was going to happen. And I'm not disappointed because it's not what I wanted to happen. It's not happening. I'm more just like, I'm disappointed because the scale of the finale seems to be much smaller than I think it could be. I could be wrong. You know, for all I know, next episode starts and, oh, a whole bunch of stuff is happening, and the location it's happening in is really large, and you can tell that it costs money. But for now, I'm just like, the way that it's all heading, it feels like it's going to be a much smaller finale than I was kind of hoping for. And ultimately, Secret Invasion, the show, is going to be like, hey, some important stuff did happen in this show, but it, you know, once again, it's not a show that ultimately felt like it had a huge impact on the universe, you know? And I guess that's the thing, is that like, when you watch these shows that are all part of a larger universe, you know, you want to feel either it affects things on a personal level or on a bigger grand level, you know? But we know that Nick Fury's going to be in the Marvels. He's going to be back on that space station, right? We know that there's going to be a new president. The only things we don't really know is how the Rhodey situation is going to play out and how they're going to end up stopping a Super Skrull. You know, hopefully something more comes out of all of this. You know, I'm hoping that, like, oh, because this happened with the Skrulls, now the Harvest DNA is out there in the world or something, you know? Now a bunch of other people can get the Avengers powers or something. I don't know. I'm just hoping that something of significance comes from this, right? Because right now it's starting to look like, although I've really enjoyed the acting, I've really enjoyed a lot of the dialogue that they've had in this, like, there's truly great moments of just writing and acting in this show. It does ultimately start to feel now like, oh, this is going to be much smaller in scale than I was hoping for. You know, it felt like for a minute we were like really like winding up to some really big thing, and now it's like, oh no, maybe that Russian square was the biggest set piece we're gonna get in this whole show. I was kind of hoping we were gonna go even bigger, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Anyways, that's episode 5. You know, like, just Fury's wife is still at home, I think, and still alive. I don't know if she's going to continue to wait there for more people to try and kill her. Gaia has also the Super Skrull. I imagine she's going to show up at the last minute and save Fury's life, and they're going to fight together. So there is that, right? Like there is going to be at least one big action piece, because you have a good Super Skrull and a bad Super Skrull, so they're going to have some kind of fight. I will say also, and again, it feels like a cost-cutting measure, we've only seen Gravik use like the Groot arm a couple times this episode, And even then, it wasn't like that extensive. He's fighting off all his lieutenants that are attacking him, and he used it like once, you know. And I'm like, you're a Super Skrull, dude. Where's the obsidian thing? Where like use extremist fire? Use like do the stuff, you know. So I don't know. I hope that they're saved money this episode, because next episode's where all the money was spent, and there's like actually a big action set piece, and we have like a big, you know, Super Skrull versus Super Skrull, and it all kind of goes down, you know. I don't know. And does anything come of this harvest thing, or does Fury just destroy it at the end, and then that's that, you know? Because introducing the idea that this vial has somehow all of the DNA of the Avengers, which again, it can't be all mixed together, right? Like it has to be separate samples in there. Like I doubt they literally just like put it all in one bottle and just like kind of swirled it about and be like, look, all of their DNA in one bottle. That's gross. I'm sure it's all separated somehow. Anyways, yeah, that's Secret Wars episode 5. I don't know, guys. I don't know. How do you feel like the episode is, or the season's gonna come together at the end? You know, do you think something big and bombastic, or are we kind of like, is it gonna be kind of a smaller thing and they kill Gravik and we have Gaia as the last Super Skrull and they destroy the machine, so there's no more Super Skrulls, and then they destroy the harvest so we don't have to worry about that anymore? Is that how it's gonna end? You know, because that feels kind of anticlimactic if that's how it ends. Like, I hope something bigger happens, but hey, who knows? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.